Has everybody already been on Coinbase and opened a wallet there at all? Or we have anybody that's brand new? I know Diane's got a wallet. You have a wallet?
Yeah, it's just Coinbase's wallet though.
Okay, that's fine, that's fine. It's a good place to start.
Is it safe?
It's safe. Coinbase is one of the only exchanges that has never been hacked or had any malicious software or anything.
So if I lose through them, not through my negligence, they're insured? That's what they
There
say.
is no insurance for you. Coinbase is insured. You are not. There is cryptocurrencies as far as regulation and FDIC, it's not there. It's developing and something that's coming along. So that's something to keep in mind and know. Only use funds that if something went wrong, aren't going to break the bank. That's something to keep in mind.
So they'll, if you want to take a profit, it's linked to your bank account, that's the only way they're gonna do that.
Right.
So now, there's another way to lose dough if somebody gets in on that.
Right, and that's why we're going to first cover security and making sure that you can keep your account protected. Yeah, one of the biggest things is making sure that you keep track of your private keys and your private information. Generally,
So private key is passwords?
private key is a little different than a password. A password is going to let you in and out of your account. A private key gives you access to the entire account. All right, so it's kind of like your debit card gets you money out of your account, but when you go into the bank and you actually can sign particular paperwork that gets you into it, your private key is like going into the bank and actually doing something along those lines. That's a rough analogy.
So at some point, your private key is, it has to be exposed to make access though, is that true to say that?
That's true to say that, but it's used in specific instances. Say that I had all my information on my laptop, and this laptop fell into a river. I lost my laptop. So I get a new laptop. If I don't have my private keys, it won't let me back into my accounts. Okay?
Okay.
So that's the thing. There have been events where there was a young man who died in a car accident, and his family they found out from his bank statements that he had cryptocurrency. And they tried to get the money out of Coinbase, but they couldn't get the private keys because they didn't know the passwords to his links to get the private keys. So that's another way that when we talk about access, the private keys come into place then. But in general, your password's going to be for day-to-day stuff. Your private key is just for if you had to restart your account or you had to do something major within your account. All right? Now, cryptocurrencies, as I noted before, are not insured. There is no FDIC or any other regulatory group to go after saying, hey, this guy did me wrong or anything. It's kind of like the Wild West in that respect.
Although I did watch a YouTube video about, is your money insured on Coinbase? And they said, yes, that's why I asked.
Right.
I don't believe that.
I wouldn't believe it either, because Coinbase is insured to the extent that Coinbase will have any funds covered. So in particular, transaction mistakes or transaction mishaps, there is insurance for that. But it really only covers Coinbase. So, but if your personal funds are not covered by that. If you had something that was in the process of a transaction, their insurance could cover that. Money that's just sitting in your Coinbase wallet, not included.
So if you're a speculator, and you have money on you have cryptos on Coinbase's
Yep.
wallets, and you're just holding long term, you're better off to put it into cold storage to take it out of there and put it
Absolutely.
someplace else.
You only use the wallet on the exchange to do transactions on the exchange. You don't use that as your store. When you're taking your profits and you're holding on, you want to move those to a third-party wallet or an external wallet.
Okay, so let's say you put it on another wallet, and then you say, well, geez, you know, I want to cash this in, I want to take some of this money, which everyone just did for Christmas or whatever. So you transfer it back to Coinbase?
Correct.
They're charging you a fee for that?
They will.
Okay, 1.5%, is that it?
It varies, depends on the amount of traffic. Like in particular, as I mentioned before, Bitcoin has a high traffic volume. So the transaction fees are very high. If you're doing less than $200, it's not worth it. It's about a 20% fee to do a transaction. All right, now if you're using something like Litecoin, $2-3. You know, so it matters what you want to do. to do that. Now Coinbase is the easiest site to use to get a wire transfer to your personal bank account, but there's other options in the sense of there's other coins that can be debit cards directly connected to accounts. So that way you don't have to worry about necessarily moving money around, you just use your debit card like at a regular ATM. And that's definitely something more advanced, so we're not really going to get into that.
Okay.
I'm just letting you know that the option's there.
Okay, well, I still have to ask the question. So you got your debit card linked to Coinbase,
Right.
and through no fault of your own, some money's missing out here. So it'd have to be Coinbase. That's just out of luck.
SOL. If there's a mistake, it's your responsibility. The thing about cryptos is the lot of responsibility is turned over to you. You essentially become the banker. If there's any mistakes, like particularly if you're sending funds over, you make a mistake on the transaction address, that money's just gone. There's no way to call it back or to undo it because the ledger is immutable.
Copy and paste.
Right, so always copy and paste. All right, so those are particular things. With this great potential comes great responsibility. And that's the thing to keep in mind with everything.
Okay, thank you.
All right, no problem. And there we go. All right, so everybody's found the website, BitcoinCrypto.News, training, coaching plans, beginner's class, right here. And as I was mentioning before, we're going to have more advanced classes. It's just we're trying to get everybody on a stable playing field, but we will have other classes where we go into exchange trading and trading strategies, and then going into chart reading and advanced investing. But for right now, we're just going to go ahead and get started. All right, so by show of hands, who already has a Coinbase account set up? All right, so a couple people are new on that. So we're going to start here by going into Coinbase. So now, I'm going to log out and go back in. This is the premier place to begin. All right, Coinbase has the easiest route and the most reasonable transaction fees to begin moving funds. So first we go here, click on sign up, put in your information. Now when starting this, it's going to ask for a copy of your driver's license or passport. This is because way back when, cryptocurrencies were very anonymous, and to become more mainstream because of illicit activity, we have to have verifications just so we can use them more and provide advancement and growth within cryptocurrencies as an industry. So it will ask for that. It's also going to ask for the front and the back side of your driver's license if you use that. And it's going to verify using a credit or debit, or using your bank account or a credit or debit card. So what it's going to do is after you have this information, it's going to send over 2 transactions, both $1 and something. It'll be like $1.21 or $1.46 as an example, and then it's going to ask you which transaction went first, the 21 or the 46. This is again so we can verify your banking and credit card information and your personal identity. So that way everything's connected and they know that they're dealing with a legitimate person and somebody that's on the up and up. So now when starting that, it's also going to give you a private key. And on those worksheets that I gave you, there's a place to write in your private key. If you already have that, go back to your information and try to find that key. So this way, if you ever need to get access into your account again, your private key is going to connect you to it.
Would that have been in the email?
Generally, it's when you first set up your account. It gives you a private key. It'll be somewhere either on the screen, or you can have it, or I believe it allows you to ask them to email it to you. But it's something that you don't generally want floating around, so most people wouldn't email that.
What if I didn't keep the key?
If you didn't keep that key, you would go to their help section and ask them if they can find that for you.
Okay.
All
It's
right?
kind of good if you get locked out, right? Or if you're
If you get locked out or you forget your password or something, you have to have that key to get back in.
Okay.
All right? Because without that, I mean, they can say, hey, you're just Joe Schmo, I don't know what it is. And like that example I said with that person that passed away, his family couldn't get into it. And they said, sorry. There have been about 4 to 5 million Bitcoins that have been lost due to forgotten private keys or forgotten account information. So keep track of that because they're worth something.
Yeah.
Something to keep in mind. All right. So now, you want to make sure, whatever wallets you have, that you write down that private key and store it in a safe location. Put it in an envelope, put it in the safe, hand it to somebody you know, care about, or anything. Because the event of something abysmal happens to you, you'll have that access to that, and you can get back into these accounts.
So is a wallet basically just an account
Basically, yeah.
in all the exchanges?
Correct. All of them have particular wallets connected to them, and each wallet is specific to the coin that it has.
Okay.
You can't use a Bitcoin wallet to use Litecoin.
Okay,
That's something else to keep in mind. So if you try to send Bitcoin to your Litecoin wallet, it's just gone because it can't ever complete that transaction.
oh, really?
Yeah, so
Then how do you do it?
you can only move Litecoin to Litecoin wallets and Bitcoin to Bitcoin wallets. So if you're moving Bitcoin, you gotta make sure you're using your Bitcoin wallet.
But if you have a Coinbase account and you
Mhm.
want to buy Bitcoin Cash,
Right.
would you exchange it or you can't transfer?
Well, that would just be a purchase. You're telling Coinbase, I want to buy Bitcoin Cash.
Okay.
So it'll automatically take that Bitcoin Cash and put it inside your Bitcoin wallet.
Okay,
But say that somebody wanted to move Bitcoin to their Bitcoin Cash wallet.
they can't do that.
They can't do that, and it'll end up in a transaction they can't finish,
And so you,
and the money's just gone. All right, that's not, you have to have apples and apples for everything to line
Sell
up.
it first.
Sell it first, then buy it,
Buy
and
it.
deposit
You
it
can't-
into that.
you can't put it wherever you want to, in other words.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct, because you'll end up just
losing
gone.
it,
Right, because the transaction can't complete.
right.
That's the main thing. So all that's just gone. Now, all right, so make sure you write that down. And don't keep it in the same place as you keep everything else. If you keep everything digital on this one laptop, keep it on a second laptop. If you want to write it down and keep it on a laptop, cool, do that. But if all your eggs are in one basket, and that basket, is lost, stolen, damaged, everything's gone.
What about those little ledgers they have on Amazon?
Yep, those are hard wallets. There's hard wallets, paper wallets, digital wallets, exchange wallets would be the four major types. Some of those are also called third-party wallets.
Okay,
All right, so you can choose which one you like. I have a couple that I particularly use. The first one is Koinami.
Koinami?
Right. I like Koinami because Koinami allows you to have multiple coins in the same wallet.
Okay,
All right, and you'll see that on your worksheet, Jax or Koinami.
oh, I see, okay.
Right. Jax is another multi-coin wallet.
Now, once you're to buy something, you're to buy Bitcoin or XRP, like say on Binance,
Mhm.
and that money's in there, that's not in your wallet any longer, right? It's on.
No, it's in your wallet on that exchange. Okay? So we're gonna get to
So
the
it stays
exchange
a
wallets.
transaction.
Yeah, right. Well, we're getting up to that. We're
Okay.
building, we're gonna get to that. All right, so now, you have that. So now the difference between the Jax and Koinami wallets is Jax has a desktop version. Koinami is only on your tablet or your smartphone. All right, so it's a matter of keeping tracks. Like my Koinami wallet, I keep here on my tablet. All right? Jax allows you to be on the desktop and on your tablet. So it's preference between what somebody likes. I started with Koinami, so that's why I like that. Other people start with Jax.
But
No,
Jax doesn't allow a phone?
It has phone app options.
Okay.
It's just a matter, it's more versatile in that respect, where it does phone and desktop, while this just does phones and tablets.
Okay.
All right, so now, particularly with Koinami, you're gonna need your email address and your password for that, but it's also gonna give you an 18-word private phrase. Instead of a numeric one that many wallets or exchanges use, this one's actually words. So it'll be like dog, cat, envelope, pie, zebra, something like that. That way it's something that's unique to you, and you can re-enter that wallet if there were anything to be lost, stolen, damaged from my tablet, or wherever you keep that. All right, now these are so great because in one look, I can see all my coins that I have available and all the prices of those, and it gives me a total of how much is in my wallets here. I have a couple grand in this right now.
And that's Koinami?
This is Koinami.
Okay,
All right, now on Koinami, if you go to the hamburger button, that's the 3 lines, they call that a hamburger button. And go to the bottom, hit that plus coins, it lets you know all the available coins that you can have inside that wallet. All right?
Can you buy them from there?
No, you just store them here. Coinbase is where you buy, the wallet is where you store. In particular, I keep only a couple thousand on exchanges. Generally no more than 2. If something's gone up, I'll get 3, but I'll start spreading them out from there. Because, again, it's going back to the principle of all your eggs in one basket. You want to make sure it's spread out. Exchanges have been hacked. People have just gone and closed shop. They have had malicious software that did horrible things. So that's why, again, why you only want to have so much in those places. All right, only the money you're playing with should be on an exchange. All right, once you're storing, you're taking profits, you move it to a wallet.
Unless it's on the exchange.
Unless it's the exchange wallet, correct.
So the exchange wallet can be dangerous.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's
But
why.
if you're speculating and you're going from one coin just within, say, Coinbase,
Mhm.
you can get caught up there.
You can get caught up anywhere, really, but the thing is, when you're on Coinbase, you're at the mercy of Coinbase. Coinbase controls that account. If Coinbase all of a sudden, IRS came in, everything's shut down, frozen. Everything's shut down, frozen. Well, the IRS can't go into a wallet and freeze anything.
So
Does that make sense?
theoretically, if that happened with Coinbase, your Bitcoin would still have value in your wallet, but no longer in Coinbase.
No, you wouldn't have access to it. If Coinbase as a company got in trouble and everything that Coinbase was connected to got frozen,
You're
your money's
dead.
frozen.
Yeah.
It's just stuck. If they unfreeze it, you can get those funds again, but if they don't, it's just SOL.
But if you did have it transferred into a third-party wallet, then Bitcoin would still have its value.
Right, you can send them to another exchange and play with it there.
Because if those things happen, it doesn't really reflect the whatever supposed value of the coin. It's
Correct.
more how the exchange
It's just the access
conducts
to it.
itself. Yeah,
Right.
okay.
So at some point, if you're speculating and you have a large amount of money in cryptos on Coinbase, you're going to be exposed if you like it or not. It's
Well,
true to say
the
that?
main thing
Good
is,
point,
if
yeah.
you have a bunch and you're not using all of it and it's just sitting there, move it to another wallet.
But then you'll have a transaction fee to bring it off the wallet back in, correct?
Right, but how much insurance do you want?
Well, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to, I don't know, so that's why I'm asking.
Well, the fees are generally pretty nominal. In most cases, it'd be just like if you went to an ATM and they charge you $1.50 going in, it's a couple bucks in comparison to however much you move. So if you have several thousand, them charging you $4 or $5 to make sure it stays safe by putting it into another wallet is pretty nominal.
Per unit or?
No,
Just for that transaction?
Say that you moved 2 Bitcoin, which is about $28,000. All right, the transaction fee on that theoretically would be about $40. Is $40 worth insuring your 20?
Well, that's why I'm here.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
what does that do to the supposed value, though, if you're breaking it up, if you're in the profit zone? Let's just say you made, whatever, your investment, what you put, let's just say 5,000 and now it's worth 30.
Right.
And you're moving 25 out into a third-party wallet.
Right.
Where's the value with the total? Doesn't that get broken up then too?
Well, the value fluctuates because the coin fluctuates.
But it's
All right.
still based on a less of a whole than a bigger whole. You know what I'm saying?
It's based off a portion of the total because your 25,000 is 1.72.
So it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter because all of it's relative to that coin. The percentage you're looking at is how much of one single unit.
Okay.
All right, for that. It's right there. But the main thing to keep in mind is, since there aren't banks, there aren't institutions moving this, there are fees associated with doing that to make sure everybody's compensated as funds are moved around. So that's why those are there. I mean, a lot of these fees we have, but people don't see them, just when they're doing their day-to-day transactions. When we say cryptocurrency allows you to become the banker, you get to see everything that's going on. The banker normally is paying for transaction fees and tellers and all this stuff that you don't see. And that comes across into other charges that they have to be paid for that. Cryptocurrencies doesn't have that. So just to make sure everything is maintained and the flow is going, they have to have transaction fees for it. And the transaction fees are relatively nominal for the amounts that people are gaining, particularly if you're already in the profit area. All right. Thing about being in a profit area is always, always, always save some for taxes. When going into Coinbase, in particular, they have a banner that's right across the top.
Please remember to pay your taxes.
Please remember to pay your taxes. It is far safer to just pay the man than to try to sneak around and fight him. They love making examples of people.
So how do you report that?
At the end of the year, it'd be under capital gains.
But do you have any forms that come from,
I am not an
Coinbase?
accountant, so I can't tell you that. You have to keep track of
so does your accountant do it for you?
transactions. I keep track of it myself
Okay.
for whenever I'm moving in and out of a transaction. For the most part, whenever you're doing something on Coinbase, it's going to keep track of that record.
Right.
And it's going to be in what's referred to as an API file.
Mm-hmm.
The API file keeps track of all your buys, sells, moves,
you print
shifts,
that
and things.
separately?
And yes, you can. You
Okay.
can access that.
And does that hold true for the other exchanges as well, where you can print that?
Many, not all.
But they don't report it to the IRS anyway, do they?
But you should to make sure you keep your pretty little head out of prison stripes.
So, but if they don't even recognize it, that's just a whole other conversation.
Right, like I said.
They can't put you in jail for that because it's not regulated yet.
Let's not go too far. These people do all sorts of amazing things. All right, but I just want everybody to stay safe.
No.
The rule of thumb is 30% capital gains tax. So whatever profits you have, hold back 30%. Now, there are some, under the new tax plan, some people say it's going to drop down to 18% or even lower. Great. Talk to an accountant that can walk you through that, one that has experience with cryptocurrencies that can do that. We are working on meeting some and interviewing them to give recommendations of ones to use. It's just a matter of we have not found any yet because it's still early as far as the tax season
So if you
goes.
take your profits and take it out of Coinbase into a third-party ledger or wallet, that triggers a taxable event.
Yes, because you moved into US dollars. Anytime you moved into US dollars, it triggers a taxable event. Now, they say that as long as you go crypto to crypto, it doesn't create a taxable event. I would not agree with that line of thinking.
Coinbase to Coinology is not a dollar for dollar, crypto to dollar exchange, it's just.
Coinbase to
crypto.
Coinami, no. Coinbase to your bank account, yes.
Yes, yeah, that.
All right, Coinbase, Bitcoin to Litecoin is a taxable event.
Okay.
And we're gonna get to that in our next part. All right, but first I want to just cover this. So as far as the rule of thumb on taxes, I go by 30%, safest thing to do. If you pay less, great, you've saved some money, you've saved some. If you paid more, you're not likely to pay more than that as far as capital gains goes.
That's only if you go from crypto to dollar.
No.
No, okay.
If you have it even in crypto, it was $5,000 investment, all of a sudden it's $30,000 from profits, you have $25,000 of profit, okay? Of that $25,000, 30% would be capital gains taxed. So you'd have to pay $7,500, because 10% is $2,500 times 3, $7,500 would be the expected taxable amount, okay? Now, if you set aside $7,500, you should be good. Talk to your accountant to make sure how much. If your accountant says, great, $7,500, perfect, you're good. He says, hey, great, you know what, your event was only $5,000. You're still covered. You just pocket the other 25.
Do you actually issue a check to the IRS for the capital gains, or are you just holding it?
I am just holding it right now until I file my taxes. And then once I file my taxes, I'll say, hey, I made this much in capital gains. They'll say, okay, based off your tax bracket, you owe this much, this percentage. So, because I put the money aside, I know, okay, hand them this much.
But at the moment, it's up to 20,000, right? You don't have to report,
No.
really?
What they did is, everyone that did transactions that equaled 20,000 or more, the IRS requested their records, and Coinbase gave them to them. If you had less than 20,000, say you had 19, Coinbase did not report you, but you should still do your taxes and you calculate it, you know? It's just one of those things where it's a volunteer system. Volunteer to do it just to keep you safe. If you're an accountant and you know better, your accountant advises you better, outstanding, because I'm just some guy. All right.
So you have a gain, it's in crypto,
Right.
the end of the year comes,
Yeah.
you never changed into dollar, you
Right.
still have a tax burden?
Correct. You can defer
Yeah,
that
it's
debt, because you didn't change it into cash, but it's still there, because you had a capital gain.
It will have a consequence at some point, but it's
Right.
not, you don't activate it till you get it out.
Right.
And turn it into money.
Well, yeah, what I'm reading, and that's, that's why I'm asking, is that until you go into dollar, you're okay.
And like I said, I would not go by that line of thinking. It's not the safest route. And I'm just
In
advising.
the past, it was like that, but people assumed it was like that. But now the IRS is getting really involved in everything crypto, so.
Right.
And it's considered a property, an asset. But,
Okay.
If you owned a piece of land and that land grew in value, you still have a taxable amount of property
But
tax to
only until you
pay.
sell the land.
Once you turn it,
Yeah.
right?
It can be deferred, but you still have to report, hey, I have this land.
Okay.
See? You still have to report it, even if you defer paying the event. But the main thing is talking to an accountant to find out your situation.
Okay.
All right? So we get that. So now.
Excuse me, I just want to ask one question. You said you could look in the API to find your transaction records. Do you find that in Coinbase up in the hamburger?
Tools.
Oh, tools, okay.
I think it's tools. Reports. And it'll let you know your transaction history. Okay? So I've run reports for my buy and sells and my transactions, depending on which currency I was working with.
Thank you.
All right. So now that we're here, we've got a Coinbase account set up. We're open. We're ready to get on to the open road. Now, Coinbase is what we refer to as a closed market. There's only 4 coins available: Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, and Litecoin. All right?
so far.
So far. They are expected to add more.
That's right.
They are expected to add more.
Like
Ripple's
Ripple.
supposed to be added to that, and that's supposed to cause some big movement. But this is a closed exchange, okay? Because it's only limited to these few currencies. All right? It also gives set pricing on these. So when you click on, hey, I want to buy Bitcoin, it's going to give you a number, and that's a flat rate, not negotiable. All right? So it's closed in that way. This is also relatively safe because everything's set and straightforward. Very simple, very easy to use. On other exchanges that are open exchanges, you're going to see of the 1,300 coins, 800-900 different coins. So it's very confusing, particularly starting out. So that's why we always recommend everybody start on Coinbase. So now when somebody does want to go and purchase a coin, you would go to buy, sell, input your credit card or bank account information. Now when using your bank account, it takes longer for transactions to go through. If you use a credit or debit card, it's closer to instantaneous.
It took 8 days, both times I bought Bitcoin. Although, I mean, they honored the day it was purchased.
Right.
But it took 8 days for it to show up into my account.
There's 2 things going with that. One is the fact that depending on what type you use a credit card
No,
or
well, they would
use
only
a wire
give me a
transfer.
$400 limit on like a $30,000 limit credit card. Well, I couldn't figure it out,
We'll cut to that in just one moment. The main thing though is when going to a card, it goes faster. When you're using a wire transfer from a bank account, it takes longer. Generally 2 to 3 days to send it, 2 to 3 days to get it back. That's why it happens anywhere between 2 days and 8 days.
Yeah, it was a
Whether
long
that's
time.
money coming in or money going out. So if you say, hey, I want this money sent to me, it can take up to 8 days to actually hit your bank account.
PayPal?
Because it's coming from Coinbase. It could still take 2 to 8 days to reach your PayPal. So it'll still be a given amount of time before you get that. Now, if you're using a credit or debit card to purchase, it's generally instantaneous. You'll see it that day. Now, the second factor on that, though, is congestion. The number of people actually trying to purchase at that time. This affects transaction fees, and it affects the speed of overall confirmations. So now, if you have 1 million people trying to buy Bitcoin all at the same time, the server can only handle so much, and the blocks can only do so many transactions per second. All right, so that's where you can get more congestion, and that can also slow down your time. So it could be 2 days, 3 days, a week for things to go through. And depending on which currency you want to get, you would just select that wallet.
But
That you
why
want.
would they only give me a $400 credit card limit?
Now, that goes into our limits. So when we go into settings and limits, Coinbase has a particular algorithm that determines how much money that they allow somebody to get on an exchange and work with. This is proprietary to them, so I don't know any particular insight as why somebody gets one thing or another. I can tell you this much. I had a credit card. They had $500 just starting out. Most people start about 500, 400, somewhere in that range. And then I had up to 15,000 after I think I had my account open over 60 days. I changed one of my cards because I maxed it out. They dropped me back down to 500 for 39 days.
Wow.
Why? I don't know.
Did you make a purchase and it didn't clear?
No, my purchases were fine. I just couldn't do any more on those cards. Like my limit on that card was already reached its max. Which another thing is, if you're using credit cards, be sure you can cover your credit card bills. Don't just borrowing money to make money is not a good idea. All right, I did that. I've actually learned a lot from making mistakes. I don't want you all to make the same mistakes I made because I've lost several $1,000s and probably almost half a Bitcoin's worth in mistakes and trying things that I thought were cool and gonna get me a big win. Didn't work out. All right, so the main thing on that is, they have a particular algorithm for it.
So, well, now it's tied to a bank account, which I really want to switch because I'm really concerned about all the liability with hacking. However, they don't really allow you to go back and forth. Okay, now I want to put a credit card in there and build up the limit. So you're
Right.
saying they automatically raise the limit within a given period of time?
A given period of
based on
time or
whatever?
based off information, if they have particular verification, they'll ask for different things and they have different justification for it. What their specific criteria is, I don't know.
I did like 3 or 4 wires and then all of a sudden it went up.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just time, sometimes it's
your limit.
activity.
No point base.
Yeah,
I think
it
it could
varies.
also tied to credit scores too.
I don't believe they're attached
Yeah, I
to credit
don't
scores
think so.
because they're working
No.
internationally and not everybody is a part of those credit
No,
scores.
it's
It could be part of the US.
It's part of
But-
the way the algorithm is set.
Yeah, I don't know.
But you actually ask for a credit increase through Coinbase.
You can.
Yeah, and then they'll ask you a series of questions that you
Yeah.
answer, and think about how you're answering them,
Mhm.
all right? So to make it to your advantage, and then at the end, it'll say submitted,
Right.
and then there'll be a certain period of time,
Mhm.
and you should always be doing that so like, say you want to take $100 out, but you only have a limit of $50. At some point, you gotta keep raising, as your money's flowing in, you gotta keep raising the limit, because at some point, you're gonna take it out.
That's a true statement. However, if you make any changes, they can arbitrarily just change the limit.
Yeah,
And that's what I'm saying, that's what I did.
Up or down.
Up or down.
up or down.
Mine was already
Then you
up and they
can't buy
changed it
anything.
down.
So now,
And then I
all of
was
a sudden
stuck.
you change it and you want to buy like $10,000 worth, you can't.
Right. So it varies. The main thing is just know that it
I
can
have
happen.
experienced that.
And like I said, it's all sorts of different things.
Yeah, I'm looking for the curveball now.
Right. Well, it doesn't happen often, and like I said, it happened when I changed something. I changed one of my cards on there. So just be cognizant of it is the main thing. I want you to say, oh yeah, this is a road I've heard about, nothing to be worried. Because that's something that people really have to get comfortable with is the uncertainty. Crypto coins go up, crypto coins go down. All right?
Get the money in there before you want to use it.
Right.
Yeah.
Once it's in, just ride it. I'll have a lot of people like, oh my gosh, Bitcoin went down. How do I get my money out? It's like, whoa.
No, yeah.
Slow down. You only lose if you pull your money out.
Right.
All right? It'll go down, and generally when it goes down, it bounces back higher than when it started. So just learn to enjoy the roller coaster.
I just want to say this, the young kids, I go that were some of the original investors, made millions of dollars, and that's exactly what they say. There's two things that keep them in the market. They don't want the market to fluctuate,
Right.
and they don't want the tax burden. If they let it ride, they're okay. So they say. I'm not, that's not tax
It
information.
changes over time.
So that's why they don't do anything with the money. They only take out enough to, for whatever spending happens to stay
Because
out.
they've already reached profit.
Excuse me?
They've already reached profit.
Right,
And a lot of them have gotten in trouble because they took out profits without paying taxes.
right.
And they end up getting in trouble with the IRS, and there's several people that actually went to jail because they didn't pay their taxes or they were doing things that weren't considered on the up and up according to the
I'm
SEC.
talking about some of the teams that are creators. That's
Absolutely.
all I'm saying.
Absolutely, and there's some of those that even before them. In 2011, you had the first wave of millionaires
Right.
created by cryptos. A lot of them got in trouble because they didn't pay their taxes or they did something that the SEC didn't consider on the up and up. All right, it's all a matter of what level you're really in, and it's also determined by how big of a magnifying glass the IRS wants to put on it. All right, so I want you all to be safe. So I'm trying to give you the best information just to keep you safe. That's the main thing. All right, so understand the volatility. It goes up, it goes down, it goes left, it goes right, it goes sideways and through. All right, that's the fun part of cryptos. I went to bed last night, said my account had 8,400, woke up, I have 11 grand. Love the ride. I also said it had $6,000. By the end of the day, it said it only had 3. It goes up, it goes down. Something else, and this is also a more advanced technique, but cryptocurrencies go on a particular quarterly basis. In the end of each quarter, there's profit taking. Businesses take out their dividends or they do their quarterly profits, something along those lines, and you'll see the markets all go down. In December,
Oh, is that why
September,
they went down so much in December?
March, it's the end of each quarter. And they'll be down. Generally, historically, it's been about the 2 weeks before and the 2 weeks after the end of the quarter. But with this huge influx of people in, those rules aren't necessarily true. Which brings us to the next point. Everything is open to change. What you learn today can be changed tomorrow. All right? That's just how cryptos work. All right? I had a whole line of thinking and understanding that was becoming quite predictable. And then all of a sudden we had a huge influx of people and everything I thought is gone. It's still kind of there, but it's not as pronounced as it had been historically. All right? So keep that in mind. Always be learning. Don't just, I know this much, I'm good. There's always somebody to learn from and always good other information to get to. So now, with that covered, the next place to look into is called GDAX. Now, if you have a Coinbase account, you automatically get a GDAX account.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. GDAX is the more open exchange for Coinbase.
Can you buy Ripple through GDAX?
No. It's still sandboxed as far as just the forward coins available. All right? But you can choose particular prices. You can say, I want it when it reaches this amount. I want to sell it when it reaches that amount. Also, if you're transferring in between Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum to Bitcoin, anything like that, you have little to no transaction fees on those. All right? But starting out, I always recommend everybody start with Coinbase. You'll pay a little bit more in transaction fees, but somebody getting started, it's better just to get started and consider that the cost of
So
learning.
if you have an automatic GDAX account by being a Coinbase member, does your password and API key
Yep.
transfer over? It's the same?
Automatically. And you can see right here on my dashboard where I moved funds from Coinbase to GDAX.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, good.
Come on.
And so the purpose of doing that is to have a little more
Flexibility.
flexibility.
Right. You can see I transferred to GDAX.
And you can, it does more, in other words, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
It's a little more open.
Yeah.
You're going from
Less
just the
transaction.
back roads in the neighborhood to, the bigger roads. All right. But we haven't gotten on the highway yet.
So when you're quoted a price for a certain crypto on
Mhm.
Coinbase, it's the exact same price on GDAX?
No. Like when you go right here to buy, sell, and I say I want to buy Bitcoin, I want to use this card, and say I want to buy $50 worth. It's going to tell me a certain amount. Okay? I go on GDAX. It already signed me in because I was already logged into Coinbase. I can go to buy. $50. It tells me how much. And I can put a limit. I can put a stop. You know, when it reaches, you know, $50, and then, you know, $511. So it'll keep buying until it reaches that amount. So I have more flexibility as far as what I'm doing with it. It's a more advanced movement and technique. I just want you to know it's there, first off.
So if you're buying on GDAX, they're matching you up with whoever's selling at the moment, and what you're allowing for a acceptable price to yourself. Is
Correct.
that true to say that?
Correct.
Okay, so that's the difference between the two. You go over to Coinbase, it's a set price, that's it. Take it or leave it. Over here, you can say, if it gets to this number, I'll buy. If it never hits, the trade's off.
Right.
Okay.
Basically,
And that's
yeah.
the difference, like in Binance, when you do the advanced,
Mhm.
that's the same.
Same principle. And you'll see the many exchanges, it's the same principles apply, they just do it in different formats. I know Binance has a cool key where it's like 25%, 50%, 75, 100% of your available funds to get some. That's something that not every exchange has.
I got a question for you. When you were on the other screen with Coinbase, it gave you that point, whatever, 0.3 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
0.003. When you were looking at that number, just arbitrarily in your transactions, and you don't see the cash just next to it, how do you convert that number? What, is that like the, how do you?
Practice. Once you've looked at it enough, you're just like, oh, 0.03, oh, that's only like $50. I'm not even messing with that. You know?
But
Like,
you know what I mean? Because I mean, I look at those numbers like, how in the world are you gonna figure that out?
But you could get a converter too.
There is a-
you can get a converter, yeah. There are sites that do that, but this one's pretty straightforward right there. It gets even more complicated because I stopped trading in Bitcoin, I trade in Litecoin. A whole different animal. Now you're talking about 5,000, 20,000, 24,000 Litoshi, which, oh,
Right,
we'll get to that.
I've
So now,
I've seen that.
okay, 1 Bitcoin, okay? All right, first off, we have $1. That's 100 what?
Cents.
Cents, or pennies.
Right.
1 Bitcoin is 10 million Satoshi.
Is it 10 or 100?
10.
10
10 to the minus 8 places
10 to the minus 8.
is 1 Satoshi.
Is 1.
10 million Satoshis equals 1 Bitcoin. Okay? So this right here is 320,395 Satoshi.
So Satoshi is the cents,
Exactly.
CNTS of Bitcoin.
Of Bitcoin.
Okay.
Exactly. And for Litecoin is Litoshi.
Litoshi.
Ethereum, Ether.
How many in Litecoin?
10 to the minus 8.
Oh, same thing.
Yeah, same thing for across the board, 10 to the minus 8. Okay? So that, it makes it a little bit easier when you start thinking in terms of Satoshi. It's just like thinking in terms of pennies.
Right.
You know, you don't say, hey, give me 0.25 pennies, you know, or $0.25, you know?
Right.
You'd say, give me 25 cents. Give me 320,000 Satoshi for that. Oh, okay, that's $50, cool, we can do that. You know, and it's just a matter of practice.
How do you spell Satoshi?
Satoshi, S-A-T-O-S-H-I.
I've seen that conversion chart.
Right.
It's like, ugh.
That's why we go through the one-on-one class, right? So when you're actually moving in, and the reason I moved from trading in Bitcoin to trading in Litecoin is because Litecoin has less transaction fees and the transactions go faster. After every transaction, there has to be 3 confirmations on the ledger to make sure it's a valid transaction. To get that verification, it takes generally about 60 to 90 minutes in Bitcoin. In Litecoin, 30, 35.
So
Sometimes 10, 15, depends on how much.
you don't do anything with Ethereum?
I do on
You do.
on Binance. I can't trade in Litecoin,
Right.
so I
just
trade in Ethereum.
Okay.
Right, but again, Ethereum moves faster and has less transaction fees than Bitcoin. Because everybody that's new, everything is Bitcoin.
Right.
You know? I got Ether. What's Ether? The only thing I know about is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin became like the brand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, like somebody says, what kind of Coke do you want? You know, I'll have Sprite. Cool. You know, that's the kind of equation. So when somebody says, I want to buy Bitcoin, the only thing they think is they keep trying to sell Bitcoin. It's like, oh, well, what happened to that one? I wanted that one for real.
So when you're actually trading,
Mhm.
do you go into G-based or GDAX to set your limits and all that? Or do you have a different trading program?
I use a different exchange.
Or different, yeah.
Right. I'm getting you all started, and this is the base. I started here. 99% of people start here, and I want to get you comfortable on this because this is predictable. It's sandboxed. There's less troublesome avenues to get into.
It's also a San Francisco-based corporation.
Right. It's a San Francisco-based
Well, it's
corporation that operates out of the UK. So you'll also see whenever you make a purchase, on some cards, there's an international transaction fee. Because to operate and the regulations, it operates funds out of the UK, but it's headquartered here in San Francisco. All right, well, FYI on that. So,
How did you get to GDAX?
I just went to gdax.com.
Oh, just at GDAX.com.
Yeah, gdax.com, and since I was already logged into my Coinbase account, it logged me in.
It just picks that up.
It just picks that up. Right. I have the cookies enabled, so it can recognize the cookie. There. Speaking of security, I always wipe all my cookies when I leave my browser. So whenever I log out, I tell the settings erase all cookies. So again, somebody that's trying to hack is less able to get into personal information. So right there. All right. So we've got GDAX. We've gone over our multi-coin wallets. We've gone over Coinbase. All right. And there are other third-party wallets. Trezor, Nano wallets. There's many. I don't have a particular preference on one. They'll all do the same basic thing. You know, they're pretty cool. Many are secure. There's very, very few that have ever had any issues as far as that, because wallets are just stores. They just hold on to it. All right. So choose a wallet you like. Do a little bit of research. Look into if there's anything illicit with that, because there have been issues where wallets made an error in the coding and locked everybody's funds into it. All right. So particularly newer ones. So I like to go with ones that are more established and have been around for a while. All right, so keep that in mind. So the next important site is called Coin. It's on your sheet, isn't it? Oh, maybe not. Yeah. Navigate Coin Market Cap. What's something wrong? .com.
Real quick, I want to tell you a quick story that I had a gentleman recently call me about Coinbase, and he was getting frustrated with the latency in getting his coin, like you had to wait very long. So he got so frustrated that he Googled the Coinbase support line. And what came to the top of the Google support line for Coinbase was a phone number that he called, and a Oriental Asian person answered the phone. Said he was going to help him and he needed to get access to his computer. And he allowed the gentleman to get into his computer, which he stole everything. He stole all of his $20,000 in coin and then started to clear out his bank account. Please do not give anybody access to your computers. Ever.
No site will ever ask for access to your computer. No one legitimate. No one will also ask for a Western Union wire transfer, which it has happened. That's a great story to mention.
It was awful.
Yeah,
I feel so sorry for him.
And yeah, I mean, there's nothing you can do. It's not insured. It is the Wild West. So be cognizant of it. There was a gentleman that recently, a month ago, sold Chuck E. Cheese tokens and told people they were Bitcoin.
1.2 million.
$1.2 million in
Oh
that.
my God.
So, because people didn't know. That's why coming and getting education is so critical.
How did he get his Chuck E. Cheese coins?
You get it.
Well, if you're getting a couple million, I mean, you're willing to pay, you
But
know?
people do think it's a real coin, because people have asked me, where do I keep my coins, thinking I actually have a coin.
A physical
Yeah.
coin. And they'll show pictures of physical
Yeah.
coins for that, and it's.
It's over
it's not.
$15,000 a piece on the streets of New York.
And then when you tell them it's digital, they don't understand, you know?
They don't, and that's another thing, people tend to overthink the situation. That's like saying, tell me how the cell phone works. I wanna know exactly how the connections are. How do you get this microchip to go do that? I don't care. Can it go from A to B? I wanna talk to my mom. That's it. Can you put cash into this, get Bitcoin out of this? Everything in the middle is not required. It's really not. And a lot of people just overthink because they think they have to know this, that. Really, it's, as long as you can navigate from A to B, everything else in the middle.
So can I
It's
ask
cool to
another
know, but
question?
not
That's- I'm
required.
probably getting a little bit off of your thing here, but, so the whole thing, because I've been trying to learn this, we met the other week. Anyway, the whole thing with Bitcoin anyway is blockchain technology. That's the
Right.
whole basis of it and why it's so great, blah, 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 blah. But what exactly is blockchain technology?
Okay.
Because
Block-
not all the coins are blockchain.
They actually have some really good YouTube.
Yeah, I gotta
Yes.
do that. I have to.
You gotta
They
YouTube
have-
it.
Yeah.
they
The short
really
answer-
was a great
Yeah.
overview of it.
Yeah, and I won't waste your time here.
Well, no,
but
we
I
can
will
go
do
over
that.
this real quick. I've answered this question so many times. A blockchain at the heart is just a timestamp. It says that this happened at this time. And it's confirmed by somebody else. Okay? So that way, myself and this other computer confirm the transaction, and we confirm with another computer outside of that. So the three of us confirm, say it's not going to change. It's immutable. We all know this. Anybody kind of tries to come in and say something different, we're going to stop them because we know it's this fact. All right. So with that timestamp, they created blocks of coins. All right. So the coin that's made is connected to the block behind it, that ledger, and connected to the block ahead of it in that ledger. And that's how you get a blockchain. From there, they take the blocks, break them down into smaller denominations so people can use them for currencies. And then they keep a ledger of the transactions of those smaller blocks. That's the short answer.
So it's a chain of blocks, so to speak.
It's a chain of timestamps saying that computer figured out this calculation. Because what the computers are doing to create a block in itself is that they're solving algorithms or equations. And for solving that equation, they get rewarded with a block. And then the miners that found that block go and put it on the exchange,
But what
and the
is
people
a
sell
block
it.
really? Because it's really not a real,
Right. It's just a timestamp saying a calculation was completed.
and then how did that turn into currency?
People are willing to accept it. If I was willing to give you a Ty Cobb rookie card for your house, and you said yes,
It was created on the blockchain, so Bitcoin was created on the blockchain. So 2009 was when the software was created, and then right after that, Bitcoin was created as its first digital currency on the blockchain. And then consequently after that, many others have been.
if I had done different, I'd be worth over $100 million today. All right, but that's also saying I didn't spend it along the way for that.
But at some point, all your friends would have called you a fool, and you would have to get over that and continue down a path that nobody was on.
Hey, only fool is one that doesn't learn from his past.
Yeah.
You know, we all make
You're smarter
mistakes.
today, right?
Exactly, I'm wiser for it. Lessons learned hard are lessons remembered. Keep that in mind. All right, so now we're gonna start going into researching coins. All right, we've gone into getting on the exchanges and getting Bitcoin. We also looked at getting Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, or Ethereum. All right, just by selecting the wallets in Coinbase. All right. There are over 1,384 different cryptos outside of just those. All right. CoinMarketCap is probably the predominant site where people get information on all those other cryptos. I do not recommend people going out and trying to get one of these cryptos right off the bat. All right. Wait, learn. Nobody's missed the bus. Another one comes along. You're not missing out. It'd be more important to understand what you're doing than to try to catch the next wave. All right? A lot of people get excited because there's a new coin coming out and they're going to do an ICO, initial coin offering. All right? And that ICO, it's going to start off at 30 cents, and then when you buy it, it's gonna go up and da da da. It's really just shiny jewels, all right? Shiny marbles, I think. I say that because when you look, and on CoinMarketCap, you can click any coin, they'll go ahead and bring you the charts. And they'll show you the life of a coin. Well, this one isn't as prominent. Let's look at something like this. Most coins, when they start out, have a big spike.
Kind of like an IPO with stocks.
Right, just like an IPO with stocks. Not bad, none of these are doing it like I wanted. But they start out at a great price and then they floor. I know what we're going to do. And the vast majority do a big spike in the beginning. Like this one is WorldCoin. WorldCoin went up to 69 cents. All right, back in 2013 when it first came out. Excuse me. Yeah, 73 cents was its peak. Then drops down here to 7.9 of a cent. All right? The vast majority of coins and ICOs do the same pattern. There are some that go up and stay up. I get you. But chances are the one you picked isn't that one. All right? So calm down, don't get excited about ICOs. If anything, you really like a coin, let it do its ICO, then come back and find it when it bottoms out around here. If it doesn't, just pick a different coin. All right? But I really want people to not get too excited, because particularly in the beginning, it was like, well, this coin's coming out, this guy's talking about it's going to be doing this, da da da. You know? Believe me. Let everybody else get in, let the dust settle, and you pick it up for pennies, and then watch it rebound again. Because what it did, everybody that picked it up here, where it went to, what's that? 0.003 cents, 0.002 cents, and then went up to 20 cents. Now, if I bought it bottom here and then let it bounce, I'm sitting pretty.
How long was that gap right there?
This gap was 4 years.
Oh,
Between January of 2014, there's 3 years, to July, 2.5 years of 17. And sometimes it is a buy and hold game. Buy and hold actually, statistically, will do better than trying to trade and invest and run around. Particularly if you just have a coin that you like and you're not worried about it, boom. I've had a little strategy of using two coins, black coin and red coin. I love telling this story. And I told people I was doing this. They were very consistent coins. Black coin would go between 20 cents and about 30 cents. Then drop down to 20 cents, go up to 30 cents.
About at 20, sell at 30.
Exactly, buy it at 20, sell it at 30. So now when I do that, you have to move into another coin, because you can't just move into dollars and hold. So I found another coin, red coin. This coin just stayed at 0.001 to 0.012 cents. So it stayed in a nice tight gap. So what I would do is when my black coin went up, I'd move it into red coin, let black coin fall, move it back into black coin, and just keep going on this cycle. Pick up a couple hundred each time. Take a week, month, no big deal. But I'm picking up a couple hundred as I fit in this loop, and I'm picking up more because I'm buying more coins each time that it goes through the cycle. Well, during one of my hold phases in my little favorite coin, next thing you know, it goes from 0.011 cents to 0.008 cents to a whole penny to 2 pennies. And then it dropped down, it's hanging out about 1 penny, 1.2 pennies. All right? Point being, this little obscure coin that everybody's like, it's not even a whole cent, it's not even da-da-da-da-da. I made a killing. My couple $100 is worth a couple grand. And that coin's still doing a lot of activity. All right, it's got a lot of potential to go for next year. I had a gentleman I explained this to, and this happened literally the night of. It was after a meeting that we had. It was Tuesday. I told somebody, hey, I'm doing this strategy. He's like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll pick up some of them. He went out and picked up 14,000 of them. By the next morning, it tripled.
Wow.
Right, so it was like $100 worth, something like that, and he has $400 by the morning. Now that can happen. When it happens, I can't say I predicted it was going to happen. I knew it to that extent, but because I looked at the coin, I researched the coin, said, hey, this coin's got some value, it's nice and consistent. Boom, I stumbled onto a big winner, and that coin is doing some big things as of right now. It actually opened up my eyes to other coins that have a lot of potential, and I had one this morning that it was 1 cent and is now hanging out about 6.9 cents. So I have a good 300-400% return.
It's probably not kosher to ask you this question, but I'm gonna ask anyway. How much would you put on something like that? $1,000?
No.
$50?
No, like 50, 60 bucks. I generally don't take wild cards for more than 100.
Okay.
I did have one that I bought.
Because you could get stuck in that trough down there
Right.
for 4 years, right?
Here's the thing about it. You can't get stuck in this trough. And if you go into advanced trading, you're creating taxable events every time you do a transaction. All right?
Okay.
If I do a transaction and I get out of that coin when it's down, I've lost money and I have to pay taxes on that. So I just double hit myself. Right? So I don't want to have to incur more taxes than I should.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Because you can make money on cryptos even by mistake.
Right.
It's just trying to dodge what.
Crawl
the
before you
tax-
walk. You
know?
Right, and that's right there. But don't try to take too much. I mean, I'm giving you an example of an advanced trading technique, and you're just getting started. You know, I'm teaching you about downshifting when you hit 80 miles an hour. And you just learned to do an automatic. I probably shouldn't be telling the story then. I don't want to confuse you. My point being, learn before you try to do anything too advanced. All right? Because you create taxable events more often than you might think. And I keep track of all mine. So I'm a little more protected. I can have a little more predictability of what I'm doing. I can see what's going on. All right? So there isn't a case where a particular black coin, it went up to 45 cents, and I was like, yeah. And I bought more thinking it would keep going, but then it tanked and it didn't go past 30 cents for a good 2 months. I was stuck in that particular black coin because I don't want to sell it when it's down. You only lose if you sell it when it's down. All right, so I had to wait for it to come in. Luckily, I don't use all the same wallets. I have 3 wallets I was working with because there's a rule, first in, first out. If I bought black coin at 45 cents and I bought more of it at 19 cents and I put them in the same wallet, if I think I'm selling the 19 cents and I'm profiting from that because it reached 30 cents, I'm not. Because the 45-cent coin came in first. So that's the first one I have to sell. More advanced than what you really need to get into, but point being, don't try to jump in and out just yet. If you stumble on a coin, no more than $100, and wait for it to do its thing. Trying to, it's not doing anything and pull my money out, you can end up putting yourself in a bad situation. All right. So, on those wild cards, research. Research, research, research. And that's what CoinMarketCap is for. Because CoinMarketCap, in particular this coin, WorldCoin, we can click on website and it's going to bring us to their website so we can see what the coin does and what they intend to be doing in the future. There's 3 particular factors that I like to focus on whenever I'm looking at a coin's potential. Number 1, what the development team is doing. Are they coming out with a new platform? Are they getting added to a new exchange? What's going on behind the scenes? All right? 2, chatter. Are people getting excited about it? Are people talking about it? What are people saying on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram? What's the scuttlebutt? People saying something's going to happen. You might run into somebody saying, like, there's a person named John McAfee. He actually liked Redcoin, and because he was talking about it, that's what shot the price up. It went from a penny to 2 pennies, just because he was mentioning it. So that chatter plays a role into it.
What do you go to for where to find chatter?
Facebook and Twitter. I really don't
What,
spend.
what groups and accounts, just crypto accounts? Or
If
forums?
there's no single location to go to for that other than the platform of Facebook and Twitter. I just look at what different people are talking about. If there's somebody you like and somebody that's been pretty valid and credible for their predictions and suggestions that they've made, good, listen to them. Take that into account when you're doing transactions. But ideally, looking at a spread, if everybody's talking about it in a positive way, that coin has a future, it has something to be used. If people are just saying that's a junk coin, I don't like it, no, it's not something I'm necessarily going to put money into because it doesn't have a good reputation. Coins are made or coins find success based off the utilization. The only reason Bitcoin has value is because people are willing to accept it. As soon as people are not willing to accept Bitcoin, it goes to 0, it goes to a quarter. But because so many people are willing to accept it, I don't see it as a valid, credible reason. Most every piece you'll hear about on the news is a hit piece on Bitcoin or cryptos. Not all, and it's changing. All right. But the main thing is, because people are willing to accept it. And the biggest thing you'll hear about is the bubble. When we looked at WorldCoin, we could see at that ICO that that's the bubble. It shoots up in price, and then somebody's left holding the bag when it drops down. That's essentially a bubble. Because people aren't using WorldCoin. It's not circulating. If it doesn't have circulation, it doesn't have any reason to exist. And its value goes down to virtually nothing.
Where does the money go when it goes down like that?
It's not the money, it's the value. Okay, think of it this way. You used to be able to buy a gallon of milk for 99 cents. All right? The amount of milk didn't change, but the amount that people had to spend to get it changed. So the coin is a commodity. What people are willing to pay for it is what changed. So the coin doesn't go in, what people are willing to accept for it changed.
That's why IRS looks at it as property.
As property, right, because it's a commodity, it's a thing, even though it's a digital thing that doesn't have a physical presence.
But somebody actually paid real dollars for it when it went up.
Right.
Where did
Yeah.
those real dollars go?
It's that people are not willing to pay for real dollars for those anymore.
Right.
All right.
Where did the
I can have a Yugo.
investment go?
It evaporated.
Yes,
It
gone.
it's, remember Yugo cars?
Google took it.
Okay. A Yugo when it first came out was worth $18,000, right? You could buy one, they were very cheap. Okay. Yugo had the problem with the gas tanks. The gas tanks exploding from collisions. Now people aren't willing to pay $18,000 for them anymore. You're lucky if you can get them to pay $1,000. Where did the money go? Nowhere. The money didn't change anything. What people are willing to pay changed. The Yugo car is still there. But what people are willing to pay is what changed. It's not that the money actually really existed or the money is willing there. It's just not what people are willing to accept anymore. So it's not that you can say the money is taken away because this is all digital. It wasn't actually physically made. All right, so now when you have $1 bills and you go and you burn a certain amount, you just create a deflation. So there's no deflation event happening here. It's just a matter of people aren't willing to accept that price anymore. And if people aren't, you're just stuck until you sell it at a higher price or you take it as a loss.
Can you claim it as a loss on your income tax?
Sure, but you have to
Just
be,
like any investment?
just like any investment. You have to be a professional trader and your accountant will explain to you what your tax bracket is for doing that. If you're just kind of dabbling in this like, oh, I took a loss, I can, you know, you can get yourself in trouble. But if you're actually going in and out of trades and doing specific actions, it's a valid trade and you're considered a trader according to the IRS, and you can actually take certain losses and deductions and the like. Which does bring up a point. If you do want to start looking into actively trading, creating a limited liability corporation, LLC, is a smart move. Talk to a business advisor, set that up, so you can actually get payroll, accounting, and particular things. Like I need to set one up for my stuff because I've reached the range where I can actually start taking off and consider it a income, which changes everything again because it's no longer property, it's a wage.
So when you buy Ripple,
Mhm.
for instance, the theory is you're buying a blockchain property, per
Mhm.
se. It's not, you're paying cash for that blockchain.
Mhm.
Ripple has a certain function
Mhm.
that they produce, as well as Ethereum has its own function.
Correct.
So you're paying for basically the function of what they're doing. Is that,
No, you're not paying for the function. What you're doing is you're making a bet. You're making a bet that the value is going to increase because people are going to use this function.
right, okay.
Okay? You're not buying anything. You're just.
Right.
I'm giving. It's just like investing in the stock. Where when you buy a
Right.
stock, you're giving that company money to do more of whatever they're doing.
But in
So
this
same
case,
principle
because I think that's where a lot of people get very confused. You're not buying a share of something.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, stocks are similar, but not the
It's
same.
the same, right.
Right. Because you technically get a coin that you go ahead and do whatever you want with
So
it.
you can, technically, when you see like 0.25
Mhm.
on that chart, I don't know what I'm getting myself getting confused.
The point is, people are willing to accept the value of that, and they want to take that bet that that's going to increase in value. So if you buy Ripple at 23 cents, like I luckily did, and because I think the value is going to go up. So now Ripple expands. There's talk of it being accepted on Coinbase and more banks using it. Great. The versatility is going to be used. So therefore, what I can ask for the Ripple I already purchased has increased, and they say I can ask $2.27.
50 cents. Did it go down a little bit?
247.
But like when
I can
you-
ask $2.47.
When you purchase stock, that's the question. Or when you purchase stock, you're actually buying into a company.
Correct.
You're buying shares into a company.
Correct.
This is not the same thing.
No.
Right.
Because, yeah, there's no ownership. There's no Ripple to go
Right.
after. There's a development team, but the development team has no control over what.
So
what
Ripple, the
goes.
company, isn't getting any value for me going in there and saying, like, I'm gonna buy this many shares of Ripple.
Not directly. They get it indirectly because since you're doing it, that makes him want to do it, that makes her want to do it, makes her want to do it. Their Ripple shares that they already have increase in value, they can ask more for them. And Ripple in particular held back 40% of the available coins, or 60%. I think it's 60% of the available
60%,
coins.
yeah.
And then they're just holding on to them. So the coins they made for nothing keep increasing in value because everybody else is talking about them and wants them more. So now they just made money out of nothing more because they're already the bankers.
So isn't it the value, the white paper that each crypto comes up with, which is really business model, how they're gonna innovate in a particular business, and that's what you're actually buying in for value?
No.
No?
Because you can have the best white paper. You can have the coin that's going to be the fastest, it's going to be the most secure, and it's going to be, the one that changes everything. But people don't like you, so nobody buys it.
And they look at the white paper,
Mhm.
and then they make their decision whether they're gonna invest or not right from there.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Because that goes into the psychology. All right, which goes back to the number 1 and number 2 points I was saying before. Number 1, what the development team is doing shows purpose and utility. 2, the chatter. People that are the super nerds getting excited about it. Okay, so looking at those 2 factors as far as whether or not that white paper is valid, whether or not that's a coin that's worth looking into. All right? So they look at those 2 points as research points to make that decision. But just because you have a white paper doesn't guarantee anything. Just because people are talking about you doesn't mean they're talking about you in a positive way. So you gotta measure those, which actually brings you to the point 3, which would be current events. All right, China. I want to say it was back in June. Cracked down on ICOs. Said no new company can come into China and start an ICO. Every coin dropped. Every coin you just saw, I call it blood in the water. It was just red all the way down for cryptos, and then it rebounded. All right, but the third factor is current events. Whatever the world markets are saying. They're going to be coming down with some regulations on cryptos. I don't know what they are, I don't know when they're going to do it, but I know they will. All right, because it's just too many people making too much money. That's how it goes.
It's pretty soon, isn't it? Or is it,
I don't know.
Well, they already squeezed the people in Australia. They said
They froze their accounts.
they were going and buying crypto, and they said,
Well, they were withdrawing their crypto. They were having the crypto deposited into their accounts for Australian dollars, and they intended to spend that whatever. But they froze those accounts because they said that the cryptos weren't legitimate. They weren't
but isn't
because
it
they
the
were too
decision
volatile.
of the account holder, not the bank's policy?
Nope.
So-
Because when
so-
you open a bank account, you sign over all the money you deposit into that account to that bank. So it is no longer your money. People just think it is.
No, I understand that, and yes, you're 100% right,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't mean I need to agree with it, and that's why I'm in cryptos.
True. But if you want to get your money into cash to pay your rent, electricity, and everything, you have to agree with it.
But later, I won't have to.
But in the process,
Once it becomes
hold on a
accepted.
second, but in the process, if it's not accepted, it's got nothing. If you can't turn it into cash, what good is it? You could have $15 million in cryptos. If you can't move it into cash to buy your house, pay off your mortgage,
Right.
do whatever, you got what?
Well, you know
Buckets.
what, it comes down to either you
Right.
believe or you don't, really, right?
No, because the bank is in control of that, and it comes down to the bank believes in it, or if they don't. And that's why they're able to freeze those accounts in Australia. The question is, how do you circumvent that and get around it? That is what need more legitimacy on. Now, Ripple in particular is a coin that's working with the banks to go alongside dollars. So instead of moving it into a US dollar or Australian dollar or some other bank currency, you would just keep it in a crypto and get a debit card that's going to pull it out as that crypto, which is becoming available. There's a coin 10x Pay, which is sliding down.
It's like Expedia and eBay and different companies are now starting to accept it.
Right.
Stripe takes Bitcoin, good Bitcoin now.
Good.
Right.
Stripe.
There it goes. 10x. It's number 62. It was higher before, but they're working on a debit system that pulls out in cryptos. That way you don't have to worry about a bank because they can't freeze your account if you don't have an account with them.
Are you familiar with Salt?
Salt, Shift, they're also coins doing that. I haven't taken anything out of cryptos yet, so I haven't really looked into them extensively as far as which one I'm going to work with. Shift works with Coinbase, so I'll probably go with that one to start, but I'll check out many of them and I'll report back to you all.
Thank you.
And let you know.
How do you buy Ripple now? All the exchanges are closed before it gets to Coinbase.
Well, there's two ways to get it. Number one is on an exchange and purchasing it that way. Number two, I'm getting there. Number two is shifting.
Shifting.
Shifting, there's an app called Shapeshift. Shapeshift is an app and it's also a website. Now what you can do on Shapeshift is send them one coin and they give you out another. So if I send Shapeshift Litecoin, I select Litecoin, and then I say I want Ripple. Select Ripple, I send in Litecoin, it sends me Ripple.
On Shapeshift? So it's going out of Coinbase, don't have to worry about it being lost anywhere,
Right.
and goes directly into Shapeshift.
And Shapeshift
Which-
takes it, changes it into Ripple, and deposits it in your Ripple wallet.
Wow.
That's an advanced technique, again, because, I say that because I did a transaction getting into Ethereum, from Bitcoin to Ethereum. Transaction failed. I lost my transaction fee, which was actually a 20% hit. I moved $250 and they said, oh, transaction failed, and they kept 40. So I put in $250, I get 200 out, and I got nothing in
So the
exchange.
transaction failed, but you still were charged a fee?
Mhm.
And that's how it works.
That's how it worked in that case. But that's my point, that's an advanced tool.
Where does it go when you do the exchange on Shapeshift?
Shapeshift has their own account. So basically it's like, if
They
I have,
exchange,
I don't believe it's an exchange, but it's a store. They have a certain amount saved up in their transactions. So if I have 200 euros in buried in my backyard, and you want some euros, I'm like, all right, give me 20 bucks. Okay, cool. Dig them up. Here you go. That's the basics.
You have to apply for an account with Coinbase and all of that. How do you get a Shapeshift account?
Shapeshift account? You don't need an account.
Oh, yeah.
Shapeshift just is a tool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's, again, a little more advanced, and I normally don't go into that, because that's a whole trading strategy I actually use, and that's what I was using when I was going in and out of red coin and black coin. Because I focus on making it the safest way possible for everybody getting started. And not getting on an exchange is safer than that. But people want to do something more than just play on Coinbase. You want more than just 4 coins. Shape-shifting allows you to get into other coins without getting onto an exchange. And it's less intimidating. All right? Of all the transactions I did, I only had 1 that failed. And that was due to the congestion of the market in general, not anything in particular to them, but it's also how I found out the transaction fees have gotten really exorbitant. Because it used to be only $2 or $3 to do that same transaction, but because of the large congestion. Now, if I had known that about transaction fees, I should have done that. Because I saw it and I was like, oh well, cost of doing business as long as it goes through. Then it didn't go through. Yeah.
Now, when it talks about, like, when you're doing a transfer, and I didn't run this transaction because I was like, well, I better just double check. It asked for a tag, or,
Okay. Oh, that's an optional mark you can put onto it. So,
but it said that if I didn't put it there, I would lose my transaction. Now, is that a tag? And that was in Binance.
I'm not sure specifically what that's referring to.
I wanted to take Ripple
Uh-huh.
and I wanted to move it back to somebody else's wallet for Ripple. I wanted to transfer it. And it came up with that, you had to do this tag, and I was like,
It
well, I'm not
sounds
doing it until I know
it sounds
for
like
sure.
it was a tag to make sure it could go back. You know how you have if you mail an envelope, if you don't put a return to sender, they don't know who to send it back to?
Mhm.
That sounds like what it may be on that. Not 100% without knowing what the transaction was.
Okay.
But that sounds most likely.
Now, it could be that it could be a tag that I arbitrarily put in there, or it could be my address.
More likely it would be your address.
Okay.
No,
It's like on
it's the ticker symbol.
The ticker symbol.
Oh, the ticker
Yeah, I've
symbol?
done that, yeah, I've done that with the tagging, you have to put the ticker symbol in there.
Oh.
What's the ticker symbol?
Like
XRP.
XRP, in Ripple it's XRP.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
So you'll see the
Okay.
tag right here, like Power Ledger is POWR.
Yep,
10x
yep.
Pay is pay.
Yeah,
Yeah, you'll see the ticker symbol. So that's what that's referring to. There you go.
So the tag is really, they want a ticker symbol?
That's on that specific exchange.
Oh,
Every exchange is a
I
little
bet-
different.
Not all of them are like that, there's
Yeah.
only a few that ask for that.
Right, very few. All right, so get into that. But yeah, but as I was saying, shifting is another advanced strategy that's a little bit safer than getting on an exchange, but you know, you still have to hire transaction fees. And you're always gonna have a cost, you have to do a cost analysis. Is it worth paying the transaction fee to stay safe? Or should I just get on an exchange and do the transaction? And this really comes down to comfort level. Once you become more comfortable to understand, fine, get on an exchange. But if you're like, I'm a little iffy this whole tag situation, I'll just stick to shifting. I'll pay a little bit more on the transaction fee. Not a problem. You know, so it's all based off that comfort.
so I could do that shape shift.
And it'll bring you Ripple.
And if I want to move one Ripple to another Ripple.
Well, you wouldn't use it for that. You would just do a send receive.
Okay.
So.
But if Shapeshift gets you the Ripple, then what do you do with the Ripple? Because if it's coming out of Coinbase, Coinbase doesn't take Ripple yet.
Well, you wouldn't use Coinbase. Because there's no wallet on Coinbase to accept Ripple, so there's no way for the transaction to complete. Now, Shapeshift has, all right, so here, just as an example, we'll say,
Start an account with like Binance or somebody and set it to it.
right, well, whichever one has Ripple. Let's say we're gonna use Blackcoin and we want Ripple to come out. And keep in mind, there are times when a coin becomes temporarily available, because that's saying that Shapeshift doesn't have enough of that coin to complete a transaction, or they have some sort of update to do, or something or other. Just patient, it comes back. All right, so we want Ripple.
Yay, Ripple.
All right. And this right here is giving a warning that an unfunded Ripple account requires 20 XRP for initial deposit. If your exchange output is less than 20 XRP for an unfunded XRP wallet, your exchange will fail. So say you just opened a new Ripple wallet, and you're only going to move 18 Ripple. Your 18 Ripple could end up being lost or the transaction rejected, because this actually has a safety feature where it'll give you money back, so you're covered on that. But if you don't have enough XRP to start that wallet, it's going to fail the transaction. So you have to move at least 20, 21 just to be sure. All right, that's on the initial startup of your wallet. And that gets everything going. All right? So, we hit okay. So now, as I hit continue, and then this also has an option, quick versus precise. We want to choose precise because there's less fees associated with that. When you want it quick, just move it now, I don't care, just get my money in. This one's moving. Now, if you have time to wait, you can click precise.
Does that site bog down when there's heavy trading?
Yes. Everything can bog down when there's heavy trading. But it's just a matter of what coin is being heavily traded. As you saw in the beginning, there was a little warning here saying that a Bitcoin has heavy trading. All right, so your Bitcoin transaction to be set. Black coin is not a heavily used coin. Ripple can be. All right? So if there's a lot of Ripple, it may slow down on this side, but it's not likely to slow down on that side. Or just use two other coins that aren't hitting that congestion. All right? So now, you would select the amount that you want to deposit, say $100, or excuse me, black coins, a lot. So let's say 5,000 black coin, and those are going about 80 cents, so that's probably about $4,000, $4,200, $4,000. And it'll tell me how much I'm going to get back on the other end. I'm going to get 1,936 Ripple. Okay? See that? So I put my black coin, or excuse me, I put my Ripple address, the wallet I want to arrive in, there. I put my black coin address saying if this transaction failed, where should they send these funds to? Because if the transaction fails and there's no address to send it to, gone. And that could be $4,000.
Wow.
All right?
And there's your destination tag.
Now this destination tag is just, arbitrary, like for mom. That's just something that's saying that I'm sending this to my mom. Like you have the memo line on your checks. You don't have to put anything in, but you do. It makes a note of it. So we'll put that in the official ledger. It says for mom. So till the end of server, it'll say for mom. Something like that. All right, then you hit start transaction. You'll see the wheel spin and go through, and then check back, and it'll let you know when it completes. You go right there. But that's a little advanced bonus for you. Just be careful. Don't use it too quick. Wait. Patience. All right, but that's how you can get into Ripple without having it on an exchange. All right.
So in an initial coin offering, sometimes they'll only take a certain coin. They won't take fiat.
Right.
So you have to make that change.
Well, they'll generally take Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Litecoin, so you can use that on Coinbase.
Oh, okay.
Now, just because I didn't specifically go over this, if I was sending something, I would go to my account, Bitcoin. I don't have anything in here, but if I had something in there, I would hit send. It's going to say, what address do you want this sent to? I always have to make sure I'm sending to a Bitcoin address. I talked about this, but I didn't actually walk through this. Now, if you were trying to get Ripple and you're thinking it's like Shapeshift, you just lose that. So you have to send a Bitcoin to a Bitcoin address. If somebody's sending it to you, this will give you the address that they need to send it to. Okay? These addresses change every time you use them. Okay? Now you can use the same one. All right? But if you go and click send receive, it's going to pick a new address each time. All right? But say that you had an address that was on your website from 3 years ago and somebody used it, it'll still deposit to your account. But this way it's going to be better, more secure by always changing. All right? So then you hit that, and then anybody can pull up their QR code, send, and good to go.
So if you didn't do it with that,
Now, how did you pull that up? Your,
I hit receive, and then anybody that flashed that, they can only send me money. They can't take out money. If I had a send, they would actually get access to my money and I could do that. So I'm safe here. Nobody can take money out of my account. If they want to steal and just give it to me, I accept donations. You know, so one of those things. All right. So now getting on that, we covered that. Let me just finish up the last couple more points on researching. All right, we went over the 3 key points of researching the coin. What its development team is doing, what's expected coming down the pipe, advancements in that coin. What kind of chatter is being talked about? Are people talking positively about this coin? If they're talking negatively and you have some, you might either want to think about holding it or moving into a position where, you know, it's liquidating it. And current events, what's going on in the world. So you have to be cognizant of those whenever researching. Now, further looking into a specific coin, let's pick IOTA, because this one's been pretty popular lately. All right, when we click on website, it opens us up to IOTA's website and lets us get information of what the coin is and what it's going to do. IOTA is particularly popular right now because in essence, it can do better than Bitcoin, better than blockchain technology. Blockchain technology in itself is bulky. IOTA, it scaled down the initial blocks to a point they refer to them as a tangle. So instead of having a big block, they're like grains of sand. And they can do more transactions in a shorter amount of time. Ripple is blockchain technology that can do 1,500 transactions a second. Theoretically, in IOTA, you can do as many transactions as you want in a second. So it has a good white paper, and it has potential. But what is determinant of what it will do is the chatter about it. There's been a lot of chatter about it recently because it was doing a deal with Microsoft. All right? But then all of a sudden Microsoft said, hey, we're not doing a deal with them. We look at them as a client. What are you talking about, a deal? And all of a sudden the chatter turned. And Ripple and IOTA that was going to be going to the moon, all of a sudden just stayed stagnant and hung out in the $3, $3.50 range. When I actually, based off the initial chatter, was thinking it was going to double and go up to $8, $9. But because of the negative chatter, it just flatlined. Which isn't bad because it didn't go down necessarily, but it stayed in that area. But it had a lot more potential before Microsoft came out with that other word. But noticing it, I can prepare and say, hey, oh, this is going to turn it sideways, this is going to do something else, one thing or another. All right, so you got to pay attention to those things. Now they're also looking to do a deal with Bosch. Bosch does automotive parts. And instead of UPC codes, they want to put IOTA tags on them. So that way, instead of a UPC, they can have a better tracking without having to read a barcode because they can just scan it and it'll give up more information as far as who made it, time it was made, and other stamps rather than just that one barcode on it. But knowing this and talking to people is how he knows that, and not relying on one source. All right? So you can find the one guy that's always credible, but check and see who's talking against him. Why are they saying that against him? Do your research. Don't just, oh, well, this guy said it. Okay, let me buy. Well, that guy could have been John McAfee, and everybody doesn't like him in it right now. So all of a sudden he takes everything go down. You know, so.
and later on you can get to hate yourself.
Right. But at least if you make an educated decision, you'll have a lot less remorse. All right? There was another case where a particular Litecoin, I had Litecoin, it was hanging out at $100. I was like, okay, Litecoin generally does that. It's relatively stable that way. It does jumps, but it's generally long lags between a jump. So I was like, well, let me move out of Litecoin, move into IOTA. So then all of a sudden, IOTA gets the bad news. Litecoin gets some good news in that Litecoin is added to a gaming platform called Steam. Steam's using Litecoin for their transactions. Next year, that $100 coin just went to $300 because more people are willing to pay for it and more people are using it. All right? So I missed a big jump because I thought that it was going one way and button hooked on me. All right? So But that was also an avenue I wasn't plugged into. I wasn't plugged into the gaming community like that, so I didn't know. I had to go back and find out later what caused that jump. All right? In many cases, you may not see where a jump's coming. There's times where stuff just comes out. Like the big jump in RDD was from John McAfee. He mentioned it and said it was his coin of the week, or coin of the day, and it skyrocketed. So, if I had looked more closer at what John McAfee's word would be, I might have gotten to that peak, sold off a bunch of it, find out his words not really looked on positively, let it drop, and then buy more. You know, and that way you can take advantage of swings. But again, that's more advanced technique and just something to recognize now. And I mention these things, I want you to keep them in the back of your mind, so that way it's like, oh, that's when that happened. That's when that happened. Oh, that's just right here. I bet it's going to start doing that. Because once you start looking at CoinMarketCap, and you're looking at all these charts, and you'll start to see patterns. You'll start to see swings. You can start to anticipate them. But that only comes from researching and practice. You know, oh, I heard this is coming down. I can expect this in a day, week.
Do you look at
Whatever.
your 7-day charts, or do you look at a specific one?
Depends on what I want to do. You know, I like to look at the 7-day because it gives me an overall flow and feeling of what's going on with everything. If I'm seeing red, I know just hold on, we're going for a ride. Or everything's on sale, buy now, get more. You know, so that's the two ways. I didn't mean to startle you too much. But when it's red, you know, that's a sale sign. If I have more money to invest, I'll go and do that. But I work off of only a certain budget. I only use profits from my initial investments. I started investing with $2,500. I've got over 10 grand in 6 months now. So, and it's opened up a lot of doors. Keep this in mind though. I've made probably 18 because I made different mistakes and I lost and I did things along the way that I had to recoup from. So my overall return is over 400%, but my actual volatility and movement is far greater than that. You know? But the thing is, I learned the hard way, and I'm trying to make sure that you all don't have to make the same mistakes I did.
You're much wiser now.
I am much wiser. You see it? Yeah. All right. So let me just finish up on researching. So we got that. So now the next thing to look at is when we're actually going to get a coin. We like it. We've looked at it. We've seen what's going on. We have to pick a market where that coin is available. In particular, Binance wasn't available for many Americans. So the question was where to get it. If you go under markets on CoinMarketCap, it gives you a list everywhere it's being traded. Plus, it tells you how heavily it's being traded on that particular site. CoinMarketCap takes an average of all the available sites. There's some 7,500 sites available. It takes an average and then determines the market price for that based off that average. Some of these exchanges have it for more, some of them have it for less.
See that?
All right? Right, but the key is which exchange are you on, which exchange do you want to be on, which exchange is secure, you know, what's going on with it. All right? So we look at that. In particular, Binance is the site to go into. And this brings us to our bonus area. All right, so we've covered researching, we've covered wallets, we've covered opening accounts, and we're going to actually, we covered shifting, which was another bonus. But let me go to the Binance exchange. Now, we've already covered the congestion pretty extensively. The reason why I really want to hammer on that point is because of that congestion, it is so expensive to use Bitcoin. So, don't use Bitcoin. Ethereum is the coin that I use whenever I'm on Binance. All right. Oh, that's the other thing, keeping track of your passwords. I know that's not bad.
Without putting them on a device.
Right. So, figure out something that you can do. I mean, it's not necessarily a problem putting them on a device, it's just a matter of keeping track and making sure that device is secure. You know, write them on a piece of paper that you keep around, or if you have a device, make sure it's a device that's in, I like to keep my devices in airplane mode. So if I save them onto something, it's not something that's somebody can actually hack or get into. This won't let me set up my, my authorization, but I'd like to. All right, and once you actually have a verification on there, then you can actually withdraw from Binance, because I know some people ran into some issue thinking that they couldn't withdraw their IOTA, but your account has to be verified before they'll allow withdrawal.
And how do you withdraw it?
You would just tell an account to deposit into an off-exchange wallet, because right now this is in a wallet on Binance.
Right.
If I want to get it into a third-party wallet that I have more control of in case Binance closes, shuts its doors, or you know, it won't let me do that until my account's been verified. So I have to figure out whatever it's needed for me to get through that. I just haven't had a requirement to get that, so I haven't. All right. All right. It's also a Chinese exchange, so Chinese laws can change, and all of a sudden that's just whatever. I have a couple grand here, so I might want to figure that out soon. All right. Now, getting on the exchange. We can see all these moving numbers. These are the buys and sells. Right now it's selling for about 59,450 Satoshi. But I'm trading in Ethereum, so I don't want to deal with the Satoshi. I want to go to Ether. I click this drop-down menu. And IOTA / ETH. Oh, excuse me. I want to click here for ETH, Ether. And then I want to go to IOTA / Ethereum / ETH. And this lets me know the going rate. 452,994 Ether. All right, for 1 IOTA.
Is that $3.96?
Roughly $3.96 cash. All right. But when you look at these over time, you'll be able to recognize, oh, this is about $4, this is about $3. All right. If you still need to use a converter, fine, use a converter. All right, but you can just use various things. So I would click the amount I want. I have 0.747 Ether, and I can use 25, 50, 75%, 100% of what I have available for that transaction. I don't want to buy any right now, but that's how I would do. It's like that, so 75%. Let's make it 124 IOTA. I click buy, that transaction goes through. But see, I see IOTA's on a trend down. I don't want to buy it for that price. I want to wait till it gets a little bit lower. So I click right here. Let's say I want to go down to 401,500. Then I want to buy. And they'll go ahead and let me reevaluate that same amount of IOTA for that different price. And it'll show up here, and eventually when it goes through, say ding, this much has been deposited in your account. If it never reaches that 401,000, the transaction sits there until it goes through or until I cancel it.
And that's where you would use the converter. Because that number means nothing.
Nothing to you, right. This one's easier because it does tell you 396, but not every exchange does that.
Is that 396 per, or is that?
Per
the total?
IOTA.
Per IOTA, okay.
Right. Per IOTA, or 451,000 Ether.
So I want to transfer that when it hits $3.75.
Right, so you would do a converter. How much is 375 in Ether? It'll say like 396,000. So great, I put in 396,000,
Okay.
hit my amount that I want, and then hit buy.
Okay.
And you'll sit there until that amount's reached or until I cancel it.
So I can get a converter online,
Yeah.
print it out, and
Well, you wouldn't print it out, you would just keep it on the screen and do your calculations when you're ready.
So how many orders can you put in on the same, like, can I put in a limit? Like, let's say I want to sell something at, say, 6,000.
Right.
Can I have it sell at 6,000 and if it drops down to another number, buy again? Or do I have to wait till that happens then?
No. You can do that, but it's going to use your available Ether, all that's being held until you cancel it or until the transaction's made. So I have 0.747 Ether available, okay? I can do a buy at 300,000, a sell at 600,000, okay? And it'll hold that, but it'll also take away from my available Ether while that transaction's in play,
Okay.
okay? So depending on how much I have here, determines how many orders I can do. I can do 80, 90, 100 if I have enough Ether to float them.
What if, I put that buy in there, $3.75,
Mhm.
but Ether also fluctuates.
Right.
How do you balance that fluctuation of when you want to sell Ether to buy?
You really don't worry about it too much
Okay,
unless a big swing happens, but you'll also see the numbers all of a sudden change drastically. You know, Ether's gotten pretty stable as far as its climb. It's not spiking,
right.
so it's not too bad. Although a spike can happen, but all of a sudden you see this, whoa, why did it drop from 400 to 500, or 400 to 300? You know, that's immediate trigger. Something big happened. So look at what Ether did.
Okay.
It generally doesn't come into play because you're using coins that are a little less volatile.
So like today, the dollar dropped and Ether spiked, and they said that was the reason why.
Yep. Well, that's being cognizant of current events. Whenever the dollar goes down, cryptos go up. Whenever there's war, crypto goes up. Whenever there's regulation, crypto can go up or down. You know, whenever there's a coup, a news. Whenever there's news, but it's generally related to something. Like Zimbabwe had a coup where they overthrew Robert Mugabe. All right. People didn't want the Zimbabwe dollars, so they started running into Bitcoin to try to hold their money to see what happened to their Zimbabwe dollars. It shot Bitcoin up to 13,000 in Zimbabwe. So if you're on the Zimbabwe exchange, you have that, you can go ahead and sell the Bitcoin you have there onto another exchange to do what's called arbitrage. And arbitrage is when you have one exchange that has a higher price than another exchange, and you sell it and deposit it here, and you pocket the difference.
That happens a lot, that's what I've been noticing.
Yeah, you can do that with any coin. But it's just a matter of they generally do those for the big ones. All right, so we've covered a lot. We've gotten 2 bonuses out of it. I hope I've laid some big seeds for everyone. So any other burning questions? Anything that you want me to clarify a little bit more? Because I've gone through everything I have on my
I have a question.
answer.
I was trying to figure out which exchange I wanted to work with. I like Binance. For me, that's the easier of the exchanges,
Mhm.
but I tried to do it in GateHub.
Right.
Sent a minimum amount over to GateHub, and then it's got that verification of 20 XRP, because I
Right.
wanted to buy Ripple. It's still pending, and I have emailed support because I don't know, I mean, I've got probably $84
Mhm.
sitting over there in Ether.
Right.
And I'm not quite sure, how do you start to resolve something like that happens? Because that's a real situation, and I'm sure it'll happen again.
Patience. That's the only thing. I actually had GateHub, sent them my information. It was 3-4 months, and they failed my verification. And I sent I have a couple grand sitting there. I have a couple grand like all over the place, you know. But they said that it didn't verify, resubmit.
I think what the problem is that I have is something's not verified, and it's like, what?
Well,
Google everything to,
Yeah, it's up to just their development team, and that's one thing that comes into play as far as researching particular exchanges or researching particular wallets, is their support. There is support and they do get through it, but Ripple's been seeing so much activity, they're overwhelmed. And how much time it takes, I wish I could tell you. It's not quite like calling up Sears and you get,
yeah.
I'm doing it, we're going in. But they don't have.
It's just $84, but it's still, it's like, I'd like to get that out of there.
$84
I
with the way
know.
Ripple goes could still be $100. Actually, it isn't necessarily a bad thing unless Ripple starts turning the other way.
Right.
But at least this holds on to it and
But it's
allows
not,
it to
it's
grow.
still sitting in GateHub in
Yeah, it's not like GateHub will steal it per se, but it's just a matter of going through the hoops that they require
So
to
just
get
keep
it out.
at it.
Yeah, just keep at it, patience.
See if I can get somebody to respond.
Right. Chances are it'll be an email, all of a sudden it'll just work. But patience, send in as many support things as you'd like, but patience.
Back to my original, my last question, I guess I didn't maybe have it right. I'm just using these numbers as round numbers.
Okay.
We buy a coin at 4, we wanna sell at 6.
Right.
So we put the limit in, sell at 6.
Right.
Then we wanna buy it again if it hits 3, and sell it again if we hit 7.
Right.
Is there a way of doing that without actually waiting for it to hit and drop? Like, can I put 4 steps in?
Not exactly, because one of your steps might hit before the other one. You probably don't want to go more than 2 or 3 steps, because if all of a sudden it's shooting up and then just tanks, like I have a coin that I was telling you about, the one that shot up today, it was at 1 cent and then went up to 7 cents.
Right.
But then throughout the day it went down to 3 cents. If 3 steps ahead, I have it sell off again at 3 cents, I could have that one happen before my middle step occurred. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
So you really just have to gauge the flow you're looking at and determine how much time you can sit in front of the screen and wait for it to happen. Particularly if it turns before you want it to. If you're expecting it to hit this mark, but it stopped here, and you have a
The
sell
rest
at
of
this
them-
mark, you can end up selling a lot more than you had intended for a
No, I
lot
guess
lower
that's what,
price than
that's
what
what
you-
I'm saying, if, like, you know, step 1 would be selling it at 6, step 2 would be buying it at 3, if it never hits 6, it just would that become a smart contract, or?
It wouldn't be a smart contract, you'd be an automated action. You'd have to create a bot to do that.
Okay.
All right, and even none of those bots, that sometimes the coins move so fast that they blow right past them. I know a guy, he missed out on a trade, a big trade, because the price changed so fast that the bot didn't trigger. You know, so it's like,
I had a
Stop
limit the
here.
other day that didn't sell once it reached its price.
right,
Was that because it was just there for?
it moved past that price too fast that it doesn't react. You gotta think, price fluctuation happens like that. Those transactions happen, oh, look for this, oh, I found that, wait, let me go back, let me go ahead and do this, oh, wait, it's gone. You know, the transaction already moved past here. That's why those things can be dangerous, particularly in the case of a flash crash, which happened once to Ethereum on Coinbase, and it was across the market. No, it was on Coinbase, where it all of a sudden went from like $100 down to 10 cents and then back up to $100.
That does happen.
It
Yeah.
has happened.
Yeah, I've
But people
seen
had particular orders trying to do something like that, sold everything off, and then tried to buy it back and messed up their whole funds. So main thing is look into a bot or just wait to do it. Don't try to get too many steps ahead.
That's very common in gold and silver markets.
It's common in markets. It's nature of the beast. Okay. I'm actually going to do a video on mentality, because you got to get that mental fortitude to be able to, you know, hodl, which is another thing. Hodling, H-O-D-L. People hear that like, what's hodling? It's holding. Somebody typed it, messed up the type, and it just kind of ran away and it's holding its own thing. But just hodl, you know, just hodl onto it, and it's created a word and all that. But just hold on to it. Just ride the wave. It goes up, it goes down. You know, just mentally get prepared for it. Because a lot of people, they start using money that they shouldn't, and all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, I did that, that was grandma's pension, I could lose that, and you know, they end up committing suicide or something like that, and the next week it shoots back up.
Yes.
So there's also something else called FOMO, fear of missing out. You know, everybody thinks that they missed out on the big ride, oh my gosh, Bitcoin's already got into that. We are just beginning on the road. All right, Bitcoin is only in 2% of the world. Okay, when we get to 10, we're really gonna see it doing some amazing stuff. 60,000, 100,000, a million are all feasible values.
So cryptocurrency is here to stay.
Cryptocurrency is here to stay. All right, they'll try to do other things, but the more they try to control it, the more it slips out of their hands. All right, because once they get a coin, like I was just talking with Rob about this, I'm starting to get wary of Ripple, because 60% is still held by the bankers, per se. So they'll still control the market. And if they put all that onto the market, although they have a measured amount they're going to be releasing, it can still gain market cap and be the overwhelming, it can supplant Bitcoin as overwhelming crypto. All right? It's a possibility. Will it happen? I don't know. Is everything... People still run away from it if they try to do that and abandon it, because the willingness to accept it is what's gonna determine everything.
But isn't it a projected 15-year lifespan anyway?
These are banks, and they
They'll
change
game
the
it.
rules all the time.
They'll game it every
Right.
single time. If you're into cryptos, you're trying to get away from them.
Mhm.
So I mean, why buy back into them?
Yeah, Ripple's
You know,
ascension.
and I'm a speculator, so I shouldn't think that way.
Right. Well, the main thing is just do research and find those comfortable. If I no longer feel comfortable with Ripple, I'll liquidate my stake. I've already got a significant profit. I got in at 23 cents. I'm happy. And that's the other thing. Let me just leave this last tip. Pick a number and be happy. All right? I want 100%. I want to double it. I want to triple it. Whatever number that may be. But if you hit that number, have the discipline, hit my number, and pull out. All right? Because a lot of people, they get that, oh man, this thing went to that, and I should have got that. No, I set my mark, I met my mark, boom. That discipline and mental fortitude will pay off so much greater than any skyrocket coin that you have, because you're sticking to your plan. Make your plan, run your plan. Make your plan, work your plan. And you asked which exchange to use, determine what you want to do.
Right.
There's some coins that aren't on particular exchanges. I want to work with Litecoin. I can't use Binance Exchange. Determine what you want to do. I use Cryptopia, and I get a lot of new coins. That's kind of like the spot for emerging coins. But that's the space that I'm working in, and I'm researching to be better in that. So determine what you
How
want
do
to
you
do.
find that exchange?
CoinMarketCap. Because when
I
you go
see.
to...
When you go to markets?
Yeah, when you go to markets, it tells you what it's on.
I see.
So, yeah, this one's Binance. It tells you what coins Binance has. But there's a coin that I like that I'm expecting some big things out of. It's called Dime. Now, Dime was a coin that the developers made it just to make money.
Dime, D-I-M-E.
D-I-M-E, Dime coin. They made this coin just to make money, and then they pretty much abandoned it. Well, the community of people that kind of felt burned by it, they took over the development of the coin, and they're running with it. So now I expect big things to come out of it. This thing is only 31 Satoshi right now. Goes to 300 Satoshi, I just 10 times my money. And this is what? I got a couple million of these for like $100.
Wow.
You know? Yeah, I bought it when I was 21. So it's cool. But I picked this one because I researched it, found out that they're trying to do something big with the community, so that shows some viability. You know, that's the...
So where, like I'm looking at buying, where do you see the exchange that you
So
would
you
buy
go to
that?
markets,
Markets, right there, okay.
right there. And you see this one's on Cryptopia, Livecoin, CoinExchange, Yobit. Yeah. But you also want to make sure, if you're doing a transaction and only 0.37% of the transactions are going through there, it can wait forever until somebody comes along and wants your transaction. So you got to be on an exchange that's actually moving
Right.
volatile. And it's also trading in Litecoin. So I'm not working with Ethereum or Bitcoin. I'm trading in Litecoin. And I can also trade in Dogecoin, you know,
Or US dollars.
or USD.
Yeah, look at the volume.
Right. It depends on what's going on. Yeah.